R2 Hero is a new module in the R2 family. It's an enterprise business analytics tool that's easy to use, yet provides in-depth analysis of all your business systems. Generate reports, graphs, visuals, pivot reports, and dashboards. Easily share them across your organization and schedule them to run at your designated times and be delivered to the correct people for the highest business value. R2 Hero will provide analytics and operational reports on your R2 system, but will also provide the same abilities on your other business systems with the same depth and ease of use. The real power in R2 Hero is the ability to analyze data across your business enterprise by merging information from your business systems to analyze the business as a whole and not separate parts individually. Look at inventory data with purchasing from R2 and your financial tool. True cost of labor by combining schedule and your HR or payroll system data, or real event profit margin taking admin costs into account. All this with a very low load on your R2 servers as your data is securely moved to the cloud for processing and analysis. In this webinar, we will see how R2 Hero comes loaded with your R2 data, provides easy access to your data, and can even suggest different ways to use and view your information. We will build a report and create graphs or visuals from the report. We'll create a job to send the report to selected individuals, and we'll learn about other methods of sharing analytics. Moving into the application, it's open on a dashboard. Dashboards can be individual or shared, and you can have as many reports and dashboards as needed. All information in R2 Hero is protected by security. You decide who should have access to your information. This can be by type of information, like securing financial information, by site, so sites can view and generate reports that pertain only to them, or by data source. A data source can be any source of data, be it an Oracle database like R2, a SQL database, a REST API, or even PDF documents and Excel files. The R2 data source comes loaded with many R2 report views, so you're ready to start generating reports from day one. You'll find the report views in the data source mapping. The R2 database is already connected and the report views are ready to use. To start using R2 Hero, you build a dataset from a selected report view mapping. So, add a dataset, give it a name, select the data source, which is the R2 database in this case, and then select the mapping that you'd like to use. Save that, and then the data set is created, and the next step is to add fields. The icons on the left will indicate the type of data that it is, if it's a text field, if it's a numeric field, or if it's a date. And then clicking on the magnifying glass will give us a sample of the data. So we have a sample of the data that we're adding as we choose the data for our report. Next, I'll pick the fields that I want to use in this data set from the data mapping. I'll go through and pick the rest that I need. There is an Add All button at the top, but then they would need to be removed individually. Once I've picked all of the fields that I want within this data set, click on the Close button at the bottom, and my data set is now created. So a couple of things that I can do here. I can start to move fields, the columns around. And you can rename columns with labels that are common in your company. There are many other options and features, including adding criteria or filters to the data, adding totals, and also advanced features like calculations, linking other data sets, and advanced scripting. We'll cover these in a future webinar. When done, we'll save the data set. Once we have a data set built, R2 Hero will already help us start to analyze the data. You can build pivot tables or add visuals. The visuals will just analyze the data that you have in the data set. In this case, I'm going to change this from account to the order amount sum. Once you're happy with it, save it, apply, and then that visual can also be used in other places like on a dashboard, or it can be shared with other users. The R2Hero Discover feature will give you ideas of different analysis that can be done just by selecting a few prominent fields. R2Hero will present different visuals and analysis that again can be saved and used in dashboards, emails, or shared with others. It's easy to add filters onto the reports. So here I'll add a filter for the salespeople. I want to filter out salespeople whose sales are under 10,000. So I'll, using a slider here, put the minimum at 10,000. Allows me to change it very easily. But then once I apply that, then it only shows the salespeople with sales over 10,000 in the time period that I'm showing. Removing the filter is easy. Just click on the X to delete the filter. In this case, I'm going to keep the filter, close the dialog. I will save this visual so that I can use it in the future on dashboards, emails, and share it with others. I'm going to do one more thing here before we leave this data set. When I'm looking at the data, I see that I have an order amount, and I do actually see that that order amount is inclusive of tax. So I'd like to have the order amount without the tax, just show revenue. To do that, I'll edit this data set. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to add a calculated field. So this again is our flow steps. This is some of the more advanced features. I'm going to add a calculated field. I'm going to call it order revenue. This is going to be simple math, but I'm basically going to just use fields from the data set in order to apply some simple math. I'll use the order amount, use the minus sign, and I'm going to just subtract the tax. Very simple calculation, but R2Hero makes it very easy for us to find what those fields are and then just do some really simple calculations. As I mentioned later, we'll see how R2Hero will help us also do some very complex calculations and even help us with scripting. But for now, we'll just put in a really simple calculation. So that's added that order revenue, and I'll drag that field into the position that I want it to be within the data set. Now my data set is done. I'll go ahead and save. Next, we're going to add a report. Adding a report has a very similar workflow to adding a data set. Create a new report. Give it a name. And the data set that we're going to use is the order revenue data set that we just created. The next step is to select the fields that we want. I'll keep this report simple. I'll select just 5 fields. Once it's done, save the report, and we've just created a report. Same thing here, we have the ability to add pivot tables, and we can add a filter by enabling filters in the report settings. I'll filter out any orders that have a $0 amount. add the filter, find amount, enter in just 1, so it's going to be 1 to infinity. Apply. Done. Once again, similar to the data set, you can easily create a pivot view of the data. I'll look at monthly sales by revenue and by order count. Once the pivot table is created, I'll go ahead and save that. That's added as an element similar to the way that we saved visuals earlier. Now I can go back to my sales and operations report, and then we'll add that element onto the sales and operations report. Add an element, saved visuals, and there it is. Click it, add visual, and it's added to my dashboard. Next, we're going to take a look at ways to send information out of R2Hero, share information with others, and also just ways to get data directly out of R2Hero to other people or other applications. We do that through jobs. You can create a new job for exporting data or sending periodic emails. You give the job a name and select the dataset. R2Hero has a number of actions that can be set. R2Hero gives you the ability to save to a file system, which would create a file and save to a specified drive. This is useful when another system needs to consume data from a system that's linked to R2Hero. R2Hero can send an email with specific data. Email bursts are similar to mail merge, where reports can be sent to recipients whose addresses are included in the dataset. Export to FTP is also included. For this exercise, I'll pick email. Add the recipient, and then you can add your own message. And next, we'll set a schedule. So we'll enable schedules, pick the interval, and then make our selections of how often we want it to be sent and what time. It'll show the next fire time, so we know when that report is going to be sent. And when we're happy with it, we'll click on Done. There are other ways to share reports out of R2Hero as well. We'll go back to our dashboard. We can share the report with other users, which means that one user would be able to create the reports and share with others, and we can also generate an external link. To recap, we've seen how R2Hero comes ready to use and is simple to create reports. R2Hero can suggest ways to look at your data for analysis, how you can add calculations and graphs that can be added to dashboards. Finally, we saw how to schedule report delivery and how to export data.